Less than 72 hours and counting before the British head to the polls in that all-important British exit vote. The very latest polls suggest that more people are leaning or creeping towards staying in. My next guest says that walking away from the European Union is a cop-out, not a solution, and will leave the entire globe vulnerable. With us now, former UK ambassador to the U.S., but also to France and Turkey, Ambassador Peter Westmacott. Sir, thank you for joining us. And look, you're calling the notion of the UK leaving the European Union a cop-out. Explain why, please.
It's because there are a lot of challenges which are out there in Europe. We know that in Britain. That's why there's been an awful lot of people who think that we should leave. But my point of view is that if we just give up the fight, if we walk away from the challenges facing Europe in terms of jobs, competitiveness, growth, migration, all those big issues which are important and which are absolutely key if we're going to keep Europe prosperous and stable and peaceful, then the British are somehow not part of the future of Europe. That's not what Winston Churchill did, as the Prime Minister was reminding us last night. We hung in there, we fought the issues, we tried to get things right. And I think for the United Kingdom just to walk away from it and say somehow we're going to be some new independent mid-Atlantic power at a time when our American friends don't think that's a good idea either, is indeed a cop-out.
It almost seems that the people who would like to leave look at the EU as somebody who's drowning, and that it would be dragging down the UK if the UK were to continue to attach itself. Because I think that it's pretty obvious that right now and for quite some time the European Union's economy has been sclerotic. It just hasn't done much. And I think that the people who want to leave somehow believe that if they do extricate themselves from this, then things will be better. Why is that an incorrect assumption, sir?
Well, it's a point of view which is held by a lot of people. You're quite right. And, of course, I respect that point of view as well. But I think there's two fundamental reasons why I don't think it's sensible. Because the United Kingdom does, in fact, have the best of both worlds. There are two issues out there that people worry about. One is the economy, and we've got double the level of growth and half the level of unemployment in the rest of the European Union, in the UK. And the other is immigration. But, you know, we're not part of the Eurozone, so we're not being dragged down by the Eurozone crisis. We're outside that with our own currency. We've got a good, healthy level of growth and a good, healthy level of employment. And we're not part of Schengen, which means that we are able to control our own borders in terms of immigration. Right. Yes, we do have the right of other EU citizens to come to the UK, just like our citizens can go and work elsewhere in Europe, but they actually produce a net benefit to the British economy. So to somehow think that if we leave the leave the European Union, that we will be better able to control migrants from outside the European Union is just not right, or that we are being dragged down by the Eurozone is not right either. Whether we stay or whether we go, the United Kingdom is inevitably going to be linked to the future of Europe economically. Half our exports go to the European Union, and even the people who want to leave don't think that's going to change very much. Yes,
and 3.3 million jobs in England are attached to, I believe, imports from the European Union and exports. But let's imagine the worst from your perspective. Let's say the UK decides to leave. What is the palpable feeling? What would happen? We have trouble getting people to really articulate how bad it would be, and what are among the first things that we might see that would be negative here. You know, it could be a messy divorce. It takes some 2 years to unwind. That, to me, seems like we would be watching a very slow-motion crash, which perhaps could be tweaked and stopped.
Well, I think the way the markets have rebounded today because they've decided in their wisdom that we're likely to remain in the EU is an indication of how volatile the whole situation could be. If we go the other way, contrary to current expectations today, and who knows, your commentators have quite rightly said this thing is not a done deal yet. You know, we've got to see how people actually vote on Thursday. But if we vote the other way, then the markets which are buoyed up today, the strength of sterling and equities and so on, they're going to come tumbling down again the next day because there will be a huge uncertainty. In the medium term, there's all sorts of things that will change. I think personally the level of foreign investment in the British economy will decline sharply because many investors, especially from the United States, they come to Britain because we're the obvious port of entry into a single market of nearly 500 million prosperous consumers. And if we're not in that market anymore, people are going to think again. But the honest answer to your question is that we don't really know, because this is uncharted territory. If we do vote to leave, a number of things will change. The British Parliament is going to have to enact a number of bits of legislation. What will it think about that? The markets, I think, will be nervous. Our European friends will be worried. I worry, having lived in Europe, the rest of Europe for much of my life, that if we vote one way, the wrong way as I see it, there's going to be a risk that many other member states are going to come under irresistible pressure to have referenda. That could lead to the fragmentation of the European Union if people start voting against. And in referenda, people have a funny habit of voting how they feel on the day, about their own mood or their own government or their own prosperity or their own pocketbook, rather than about the question on the order paper. So things could go all sorts of haywire directions if we do vote to leave on Thursday.
We appreciate you coming on to articulate your point of view, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Ambassador Peter Westmacott, of course, is the UK ambassador to the US, France, and Turkey.